It is not normal and logical to think how amazing it is that the tide came in, sunk into the sand, and made an impression which looks like a footprint. Oh, that could happen. It's not impossible. But that's not how our brains function. The logic of our brains tells us we see that footprint, we assume that a human being stepped here. But those who say no, not necessarily, they will argue, for example, very easily, that if you take a bucket of paint and you throw it against the wall, it can splatter and look like a hand, or a head, or a foot. This can happen, and it's true. You look at the clouds, sometimes the clouds take a shape, you say, that looks sort of like a head. Looks like somebody I know. Or a foot, or a hand, or something. It happens. However, we say, if you put in that bucket colors, your primary colors, yellow, red, blue, add some white and black, stir it up, and then throw it against the wall, what are the chances of a Mona Lisa coming out of that? Now the atheist will say, possible. It's possible. If you throw it enough times, you have enough paint, eventually, one time, it could happen. What does our minds tell us? No way. The first time you try is like the last time you try. It's all the same. But the atheist illogically will say, no, it's possible. And they will even give you a mathematical possibility. 1 to the minus billion zeros, but still it's 1. But common sense tells us, no, it's not going to happen. That Mona Lisa came from a designer designing it, deliberately adding colors, etc. to create this. It doesn't happen by accident. Or, as they say, we're all a product of what? The Big Bang. What is the Big Bang? It is an explosion which makes atomic nuclear reactions seem like a cough. A massive bang. Now imagine, we take an atomic bomb and we drop it in a junkyard. What are the chances after that explosion that a Rolls Royce comes out? Engine purring, door half open, just come and take me. What are the chances of that? The atheists will say, it's possible. You drop enough bombs in enough junkyards, eventually that's going to happen. Is that logical? Is that reasonable? And we say, no, this is illogical. All of our common sense and experience says, no, no way. They like to put it this way. If you put 100 monkeys in a cage, and you give them 100 typewriters, in our case, 100 Arabic typewriters, and you let the monkeys jump up and down on the keys, beating it with their heads, their elbows, toes, fingers, everything, eventually, one of them will type out the whole Quran in Arabic for you, from Fatiha until Nas. Or they give the Bible from Genesis to Revelations. One of them is just going to just beat away and it's just going to pop out the whole of the holy book. This is what they say. Give them enough time, enough paper, replace the keys when they get worn out. One of them will eventually do it. We say, no. Common sense says, no. Design indicates a designer. Aristotle, on the other hand, he argued regarding the principle of infinite regression. Meaning, you have a creator, That creator has a creator. If we narrow everything down, we come down to one creator. And then, who created that creator? We say, another one like him. Then who created that one? Another one like him. And who created that one? Another one like him. And you just keep going till when? Till infinity. You can just keep going back to infinity. Aristotle argued that no, to argue that is to say that things didn't have a beginning. If the beginning is infinity, it's like saying there is no beginning. So if there's no beginning, how did we get here? Our existence is evidence that things have a beginning. That is how Aristotle argued. And in the Quran, we find it mentioned in Surah Tur, where Allah says, أَمْ خُلِقُوا مِنْ غَيْرِ شَيْءٍ أَمْ هُمُ الْخَالِقُونَ. Were they created from nothing? Or did they create themselves? Self-creation? Not possible. Creation from nothing? That nothing would create us? No. There has to be a creator. So this is reasonable and logical. With regards to those sub-questions, if everything has a creator, who created God? That was Aristotle's answer. God had to be without a creator. He had to have no beginning. And that's a basic characteristic of God. That He has no beginning and He has no end. If He had a beginning, then He's no different from the rest of us, needing somebody else to create Him. And if the one who created Him didn't have a beginning, it had a beginning, then He's like the rest of us. So obviously, to start this whole process going, there had to be one without a beginning who started the ball rolling. So the question, who created God, is in fact an illogical question. And it is similar to the question, if God can do anything, why can't He have a son? This is an illogical question. And there are a whole bunch of questions like this, which basically ask you, can God do something which is not, makes Him not God? What we call an ungodly act. Can God do that? Or does God only do godly acts? Can God be born? We just said God doesn't have a beginning. Can He be born? God is one who has no end. Can God die? No. These are illogical questions. Because the very definition of God is one without a beginning. So any question which involves making God no longer God, then these are what we call ludicrous questions. They are illogical and unreasonable because you've already defined who God is. For God to have a son, think about it. We have sons. What is a son? A little version of ourselves. A little man. Cows have calves. What are calves? Little cows. Cats have kittens. What are kittens? Little cats. So what do gods have? When God has a son, then what do we have now? A little God? We got the big God and we got a little God? Problem. You no longer have one God anymore. This is one of the basic characteristics of God, that He is one and unique. None like Him. So to ask, can He have a son? Is nonsense. Third sub-question. If God is all-powerful, can He create a stone too heavy for Him to lift? Falls in the same category. Because you're asking, can God make something greater than Himself? No. If He is the greatest already, He's greater than all things, that's His characteristic. So then, can He make something greater than Himself? That's nonsense. Contradicts itself. The fourth question, sub-question, if God is all good and able to do all things, then where did evil come from? This is a common question which actually addresses a phenomena which happens amongst people, where they end up falling into atheism because of their inability to understand evil, the role of evil in life. So what happens to them, oftentimes when you ask a person who claims to be an atheist, his parents were Christians or Muslims, but he now is an atheist. Why? He says, well, you know, I had this auntie. My auntie was a really wonderful and good person. Better than anybody else I knew. And one day, when I was out with her, and she was helping me across the road, a big truck came and ran over her, killed her. Why? She was a good person. So many other people I know are so evil and they're living their lives out comfortably. They seem to be okay, no problem. So where's the justice and the fairness in all of this? If there's a good God, then why in God's world did this person get killed? They have no answer. No explanation. Nobody can explain it to them. So what's left? There couldn't be a God. For this to take place, there could not be a God. Well, reality is that if we just stop for a minute and we look into our lives, we can see many occasions where what appears to be evil is in fact good. Something evil happens and we feel bad and sad, etc. But later on, we see that from that evil thing, some great good appeared. And we say, wow, that was good. It happens to all of us. The simple example is that of a child. We have to take him or her to the dentist the first time. Now, before we take the child to the dentist, we usually prime them up. The dentist is a good man. He likes little kids. He's going to give you a lollipop. Then you take him in or her in. They're happy to see the nice dentist with the long white robe, and they put you in the chair. Maybe you suck on the lollipop before. Then the dentist begins his or her work. The drill is in the teeth. And the kid starts screaming, ah! No matter how much, Novocaine or whatever they put in the gums, it's still paining. And after they leave, tears in their eyes. They'll say, you said he was a good man. Look what he did to me. It hurt. And when you have to take him back or her back to the dentist the next time, you think they'll accept that this dentist is a good man? No way. You'll have to fight to get that kid back into the dentist chair again. Because for them, the dentist is an evil man. He did an evil thing to them, a bad thing, a hurtful thing. That's all they can see. Now, of course, we as adults, we can say that little harm is to prevent a bigger harm. Right? When you get the holes in the teeth and, goes bad, you have to have a root canal, your teeth is falling out, paining, all this kind of stuff. It's a big harm. So that little harm is to prevent a bigger harm. But can that kid see that? No matter how much you explain to them the little harm to prevent the big harm, they can't see it. All they can see is that drill. And all they can think about is the pain that they felt. So you can't convince them.